All right, good morning. This is Rick Smith at the National Weather Service, and this is our severe weather and flooding update for today, Thursday, April 26th. I apologize for the little bit of a late start time. We'll probably do this again tomorrow, and we'll probably do it at 10 tomorrow, but I'll send out an announcement. Kind of got behind this morning and had to do it at 11, so I apologize if that was an inconvenience for anybody. So let's jump right into it. Starting with today, there is a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms over northern Oklahoma. This would mainly be late afternoon into the evening hours. Not expecting a lot here, and this is mainly for just some marginally severe hail, maybe nickel to maybe quarter size, gusty winds, and super low tornado potential, if at all. So that is today's outlook. Not really expecting a lot today. Of course, the main interest is Friday and Saturday, so we'll jump right into that. Kind of start off with a broad scale view of this severe weather outlook for tomorrow. We always kind of chop everything right at our county warning area boundaries, but I wanted to show you the whole outlook. We're on the kind of on the western edge of a large enhanced area that goes up into Arkansas and Missouri and beyond there, so you can kind of see how it lays out. But when we zoom back into our area of responsibility, this is what it looks like. Hasn't changed a lot over the past couple of days. Still highlighting an area over central, southwest, southern Oklahoma, and then into parts of western North Texas with that enhanced risk. That enhanced risk, I think, is supposed to highlight the area with the highest potential. What we're thinking of it as is the highest potential for a more significant severe thunderstorm, supercells. The highest tornado threat we think would be in that enhanced risk area. But there's still a lot of questions, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Also keep in mind that this risk is talking about all of Friday and all the way into early Saturday morning. So there's going to be some risk of severe weather Friday afternoon. I think the majority of the severe weather is going to be after dark on Friday and into the early morning hours, perhaps on Saturday. So it's not an afternoon and evening kind of thing. A lot of the thunderstorms we're going to see after dark tomorrow, even outside the enhanced risk area, are capable of being severe. Large hail would be the main threat with those. And we'll get into the questions here in just a second. All right, there's a lot of ingredients coming together tomorrow, but there's still some question marks about exactly how everything's going to play out. I know you get sick of hearing that. We get sick of saying it, but that's just a way of life. That's how it is, because we just don't know exactly how things are going to be lined up by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon. We have a pretty good idea of some of the bigger pieces that are going to be in place. We're going to have moisture returning to the area. We're going to have some unstable air. We're going to have very favorable wind shear for severe thunderstorms. We're going to have a front over the area, and that front is going to be a focus for thunderstorms, both possibly in the late afternoon, early evening, and then certainly overnight. But there's some questions. One of the main questions is, where's that front going to end up? The way the outlook is structured right now, the highest risk is over central and southwest Oklahoma, south central Oklahoma, basically not quite along and south of I-44 roughly, and extending out to Altus. There's different solutions that the models are giving us on where the front is going to line up. The main models we've been looking at all week, the GFS model and the European model, now have come into agreement that they both think the front is going to be lying somewhere along the dreaded I-44 corridor, either side of there somewhere. Could be a little south, could be a little north. Some of the models that we look at in the shorter range, we're starting to get our first glimpse of what those are saying. Those don't go out as far, and some of those are keeping the front a little bit further south. So the front, this warm front, stationary front, whatever it ends up being tomorrow, is going to be something to watch. So we're going to be watching where those 60-degree dew points, 65-degree dew points are. We're going to be watching for where the winds are from the south and the southeast tomorrow. If you're in an area tomorrow where you've got dew points of 60, 65 degrees and you've got south or southeast winds, consider yourself in the enhanced area. That's where we're going to have the higher potential, possibly, for supercells, and that's where the tornado potential would be highest in that area. North of the front, what we're going to expect to happen is tomorrow night after dark, everybody's going to get the opportunity for severe weather during the very late afternoon and early evening hours. I think it's mainly going to be areas along and south of that warm front, wherever that lines up. But in the evening hours into the overnight hours, I think that's going to spread, because what's going to happen is moisture is going to be moving north, and it's not going to stop when it gets to that warm front. It's going to run over the top of it, and we're going to get widespread rain and thunderstorms by the time we get to Friday night. So we may not see a drop of rain before dark tomorrow in our area, but we'll make up for that after dark tomorrow night. So the front is going to be really one of the key pieces to track as we go through the day tomorrow. Another thing that we're looking for is, of course, one of the big questions, and one of the questions already seen in the chat, is when will storms start? And that is a big question. Again, most of the models that we've been using to look at this week, and the short-term models we're starting to see today, most of those don't break out any precipitation at all before 7 o'clock Friday night. So it could be that the sun sets tomorrow and we don't have any storms, no warnings yet, and nothing's really going on. So don't be surprised by that. I'm already bracing myself for the Facebook comments of people saying, well, you said we're going to have storms Friday. How come it's not raining? And most of the rain's going to be after dark. So keep that in mind and help us spread that message as you're talking to people. One possibility is going to, well, let me go back for a second. There's two things that are going to prevent or limit the development of thunderstorms tomorrow during the day. First of all, we are expecting that there'll be some form of a cap over us, this layer of warm air that's sitting on top of us, kind of acting as a lid, and we may not become unstable enough during the day tomorrow to break through that cap. It may take the upper level system coming out tomorrow night to help kind of break it from above, if you want to think of it that way. There's also not going to be any really strong, what we call forcing tomorrow. There's nothing really to give the thunderstorms a boost or to give them a kickstart and get them going. So there's not really a strong front coming through. The dry line is not going to really be something by itself that's going to initiate storms, especially if we have a cap. There's, in fact, one upper level disturbance is going to be moving past us tomorrow early in the day. And on the back side of that, the air actually may be sinking aloft, and that would also help to suppress thunderstorm development. I think one of the best opportunities for thunderstorms during the daylight hours tomorrow would be in this area. And again, it depends on exactly where the warm front sets up, but this area of southwest Oklahoma, western North Texas, please don't take that line or that circle as exact. It's just a general idea. What's going to happen is we're expecting, some of the models are forecasting a surface low pressure area to develop down over southwest Oklahoma, western North Texas, connecting up with that warm front that will be lying possibly somewhere along I-44, and then connecting up with the front or the dry line that's pushing in from the west and the northwest. We call that a triple point, and that is the best chance. That's our best spot, we think, tomorrow during the day for thunderstorm development. If we get thunderstorms developing late tomorrow afternoon in this area, conditions will be pretty favorable for severe weather, including supercells and perhaps tornadoes. And we're going to be very, very closely monitoring any storms that are near that warm front or crossing on either side of the warm front. A lot of times those storms can intensify even more when it comes to potential tornadoes. So we're going to be watching for that. So we could see storms develop down there, but we think probably we're going to have to wait until a little bit later on to get storms to happen. The initial storms that form probably will still be down in that southern Oklahoma, western North Texas area. Those would have the highest severe weather potential for supercells, at least, and that's where the highest likelihood of any tornadoes would be. Tomorrow's also not going to be a standard day. A lot of people get confused when we say the severe weather potential is going to go up after dark, and people don't understand how you can get more storms after dark when the sun goes down and it's not heating and it's not as unstable. Actually, it's going to get more unstable tomorrow night, and actually the wind shear is going to be even more favorable for potentially tornadoes after dark tomorrow. So this is one of those deals where it's one of my least favorite kinds of things where we're going to have the potential, not guaranteed, for tornadoes and supercells tomorrow after dark. So be very mindful of that. Bottom line, I've rambled for a long time on this slide, but there are questions. We got to watch where the front sets up tomorrow, and we're going to have possibly a whole day tomorrow to wait for storms to develop. We may not see anything during the daylight hours at all. So let me see. All right, that's enough of that for now. Rain and thunderstorms are going to continue Friday night, continue into the day on Saturday. Now, not every place is going to see rain all day long, but there's going to be the potential for repeated rounds of rain, and for that reason, we're concerned about some flooding. I'll get to that in a second. There'll be some leftover risk of severe weather on Saturday, especially earlier in the day. And again, depending on where the front ends up and how it gets pushed south during the night, we will have a risk. And right now we're drawing that risk from around Holdenville to Ada down to around Wichita Falls or Henrietta, Texas. Again, these lines will move. So just know that the Saturday risk will be very much dependent on what happens tomorrow night. And I wanted to highlight this. We don't have it in our forecast, and I don't know, I haven't talked to him this morning out there in a little while to see if we're going to put it in, but I would not be totally surprised if sometime Saturday night or early Sunday morning, if parts of northwest Oklahoma saw some big, wet, heavy snowflakes at some point on the backside of this. It's not a big deal, but don't be shocked if that happens up there. And we're going to be looking at that potential today. It's not anything that's going to cause huge problems, but just don't be surprised if that happens up there. And we'll see what goes on as we update the forecast for that. All right, we do have a flood watch for much of Central, and this flood watch, again, kind of like the risk area, goes all the way up into northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, much of Arkansas, and onto the east and northeast of there. So we're on the southwest edge of a whole area of heavy rain potential. This is setting up to be some really heavy rain. We're going to be kind of on the edge of it here in central and southern Oklahoma, but as you go up into northeast Oklahoma and southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, they're expecting a foot of rain maybe over the next several days. Hopefully we're not going to get that much, but we're going to get some substantial rains. So this flood watch is in effect from Friday evening into the early morning hours on Sunday. That's when we expect the heaviest rain to fall. This is a new graphic that we're experimenting with. Some of you hate it, some of you like it, and it can be a little confusing, but this is a graphic actually produced by the Weather Prediction Center, the National Center, and they do use some of the same colors and words that the Storm Prediction Center uses, but think of this as a flash flood risk graphic or a graphic outlook. So where you see the red shaded areas there, which would include parts of the Oklahoma City area, Chandler, Shawnee, Seminole, Holdenville, out into eastern Oklahoma, that's where we see the highest potential for flooding and flash flooding. Yellow shaded area would also have some potential as well. These are the latest rainfall amounts that we're looking at, and again, these are going to be fine-tuned, but we see a broad area of 1 to 1.5 inch rains covering much of central and even over into western Oklahoma a little bit. Areas from Stillwater to El Reno, down to Chickasha, down to Pauls Valley, Sulphur, and then down to the Medill area, Ardmore, Durant, could see upwards of 1 to 2 inches, and then by the time we get over towards Shawnee and Seminole and Holdenville in that area, that's where we expect exceptionally heavy rain to fall 2 to 3 or more inches. Now, if you get under a couple of thunderstorms, these numbers could be dramatically different. So somebody out there may get 8 inches, somebody out there won't get a drop. So just know that we are focusing our attention for heavy rainfall on central Oklahoma, and you can see the area shaded there, basically the area where that watch is in effect. So somebody asked about southwest Oklahoma City. As far as flooding potential, Oklahoma City would definitely be in the 2 to 3 inch category, but that could be locally higher. So if we get a thunderstorm or two that moves over the same area, the same rain gauge, we could see more than 3 inches. So there is some definite potential for heavy rainfall and flooding. So we're going to be, in a way, that's going to overshadow some of the severe weather risk, especially if we get later into Friday night and into Saturday. So to summarize, the severe weather risk is primarily from very late in the day on Friday through the evening and into maybe to midnight or a little bit after on Saturday and into early, on Friday night, Saturday morning. The severe weather risk is lower after that, and then the flooding threat will begin to increase Friday night and into the day on Saturday. All right, that's all the slides I have, and we've had a couple of questions here. I've been